Well, hello. Welcome to the Kingsway Podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in as we continue on this journey, learning how to love learning. I hope that you have checked out some of our previous ones, and if you haven't, you feel free to go back through our kind of growing library of kind of opportunities to learn, grow about different topics, off the cuffs. Even the one that we did this last time, I think was amazing. It's a two-parter on our top 10 favorite movies. Just a neat way that we can continue to connect and take advantage of the means to, kind of communicate through technology. So we're going to kind of do something new. I know Jed and I have just been talking through this. What's up, Jed? Yo. And I know that he's excited to kind of throw something out. And one of the episodes that we did not too long ago was called Bible Studies Tools or Tips. And I really liked the way that we kind of just tried to give you three basically ideas, context, and basically tried to give you three ways. You need to get the context. You need to have that basically evaluated, and then you need to have that be something that eventually down the road leads to interpretation and then actually leads to application. So, you get this like read it, interpret it, apply it, and I think as I've thought through what we need to do next, one of the things that I've seen happen the most right now, and I think it's the current state, but it's also just the social media world that we're in, a lot of Bible verses get thrown around on Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or Twitter or even the TikToks. And what ends up happening is a verse that has power and has good context, but is not fully explored, gets kind of thrown out there and is in your face, immediately. And so what we're going to do today is we're actually going to take some time to kind of look at the social medias today. Jed's doing that right now. And all we're going to do is, I don't know what we're going to call this segment too. It's like context in a minute or something, or let's explore deeper. You have any ideas? What are you thinking? I love this, putting you on the spot. This is awesome.
Right.
Your favorite, right?
Oh, I love it. It's my favorite thing that you've ever done to me.
You go to name these or title these later, and you're like, we never talked about that. What do I call this? No, we're gonna he's basically scouring the internet right now on the social medias, and he's gonna look for a verse or something that someone's posted. Maybe it's a daily verse.
I'll just tell you right now, I got all three from the daily verse and U version.
Oh, daily verse and U version. Yep. That's what you're doing. So that's a perfect example. People use that version of like Bible all the time. It's a digital thing, reading plans. It's awesome. But you see that daily verse. That's a perfect example. And then people use that and just instantly post it to their Facebook page, instantly post to their Instagram.
Yeah.
And
not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing. We're not trying to knock it in any way. I just think sometimes you read that verse and you put your own interpretation on it without putting any context on it, right? And that can be a dangerous thing. And so what can be even more fun, though, is to use that as a catalyst to teaching yourself to learn the full context of verses. And that's kind of where this is coming from, of like, how do I start learning how to study the Bible? And so one of the things that I was talking through with Jed today was like, hey, what if we just took these daily verses, these things that are getting posted, and I just did this off the cuff, not knowing what verses they are, not knowing what's coming, and kind of showed you what it would look like for me to break this down. Now, I am not perfect by any means, and this is off the cuff, so I haven't done my research. I am going to use my phone and some Google, possible stuff. I'm going to use my Bible. I'll look it up. Don't be afraid of Google. I just told this to Jed. Don't be afraid to Google. Google's a great way. It just should never be your only thing. It should never be your only source. There's some credible things out there that you can use inside the internet, but Google should just never be the final word. Just like Wikipedia, right? Wikipedia should never be the final word about something. So here's how this is going to work. First, you're going to click the subscribe button right now, because you're loving the content, right? I mean, you're loving it. We haven't even done anything yet, but you're loving it. And I want you to just, boom, click that thing, turn the notification bell on. And that way you can get even more episodes, and wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It just makes my heart happy. That's just it. I mean, that's just what it is. But then now we're going to go to the first verse that Jed has pulled for us off the daily content. What verse do you have for me as I get a little terrified and need to drink in my anxiousness this delicious Coca-Cola that now is
ASMR now. We got this ASMR. I hate that.
I feel bad for even doing it. I'm so sorry.
I'll
I
cut
apologize.
All right. First verse is actually today's verse of the day.
Okay.
It's 1 Corinthians 10:13.
Ooh.
And it says, "No temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man.
Golly.
God is faithful, and he will not let you be tempted beyond your ability. but with the temptation, he will also provide the way of escape that you may be able to endure it.
Which verse is that again?
10:13.
10:13. Okay, so very clearly. So here's how my mind's racing. So because I've gone to Bible school and because I know a little bit, you do, though, no matter what level you're at, I want to clarify that before I go even further with that. Whatever level you have learned about something, I've grown up in the church, I've been around the church, I've gone to Bible college, I've studied things a lot. 1 Corinthians, I know very quickly, is one of the longer epistles, and it has two versions. It's 1 and 2 Corinthians. And so you're jumping into the first letter to the church in Corinth, written by Paul. I just know that. That's something you're going to have to research, but I immediately know that. Like, I'm like, all right, it's Paul. It's an epistle. It's church in Corinth. I immediately know this just because of prior things that I immediately go, okay, I believe this is one of the most sinful towns in the European world. And I know that it was relative to Las Vegas is what I think that I remember the context. It was like, it's just a very like, it had one purpose, one pleasure, one kind of like group of people that, so Paul's letters to them are long because he's trying to help them kind of see. But all right, now once I know that in my mind, then I need to go to the actual verse, which is verses 13, right?
Yeah, chapter 10, verse 13.
Which is actually a really long verse.
Mm-hmm.
It says, no temptation has overtaken except what is common. I was going to make my observations first. Observations, interpretations, applications, right? That's how we interpret observations, interpretations. So I'm going to say common to mankind, which is kind of a key little word there, mankind. I always like thought process. God is faithful. Ooh, I like that statement. That's a pretty wordy or a pithy statement, I should say. He will not let you be tempted. Ooh, what does that word tempted mean? I'm always curious that was tempted beyond what you can bear. Ooh. But when you are tempted, he will also provide a way out so that you can endure. All right, so I'm going to provide a way and then endure. Those are kind of unique little terms. So what I would start to do if I'm watching it, or if I'm reading this off the cuff and I just read it, I would literally start to look at definitions of these types of things. So I'm like, what does it mean to endure? So like looking that up real quick. Maybe you can even help me with some of this stuff. What does it mean to endure, Jed? What is that? What is the definition of endure? And I'm going to look at mankind. What's the definition of mankind? I'm not saying that always the English is the best translation of this, because obviously this is coming from Greek, and I know that. But I always like to have a little bit of words in my mind to kind of give a little inflection or depth to them. So mankind is human beings considered the collective or the human race. So it's all of the human race, which is kind of a huge thing. And what is endure mean?
Endure is to suffer patiently.
Ooh, see, that's why we go a little deeper. I like that, to suffer patiently. Man, that's just, I don't even like that. I don't like it, but I like it because I don't like that idea, but I really like it. Okay, so knowing that, we need to go back. Now, here's the tricky but also really helpful way. If you look back at the headers of some of the things that have gone on in the sections ahead of this chapter 10 section, you start to get a picture of where we're going and what we're going through. So if you come back up here and it says warning from Israel's history, and then you go to the next one, it says the need for self-discipline. And then if you go to the next one, it says Paul's use of his freedom. You can sort of start to see, think, what are we going on here? And then if you go beyond this verse, it says this, idols and feasts and the Lord's Supper. And then it goes to this, the believer's freedom. And then it goes to uncovering the head in worship, and then correcting an abuse of the Lord's Supper. Now, does anyone remember or know anything about those headings? Like that would be like the thought process that I would have. You like use those headings to kind of spur your thoughts of like, hey, what's going on? Now, what I know is that section in chapter 9 that it says the need for self-discipline is actually a very popular section. And I know that. And so if I go back and I look at that section very quickly, I can read this in that section. It's chapter 9, verse 24. Do you not know that in a race, all the runners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way that you get the prize. All right. Everyone who competes in the games gets into strict training. They do not get a crown, but they get a crown that will not last. But you get a crown that will last forever. Therefore, do not run like someone running out aimlessly. I do not fight like a boxer beating the air. No, I strike a blow to my body and make it a slave, so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified from the prize. So this is talking about making sure that he is living a life that is worthy of the message that he's giving. That's pretty intense. But then he transferred this. For I do not want you to be ignorant of the fact, brothers and sisters, that our ancestors were all under the cloud that has passed through the sea. They were all baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea. They were all the same spiritual food and drank the same spiritual drink. This is chapter 10, the start of it. For they drank from the spiritual rock that accompanied them, and the rock that was Christ. Nevertheless, God was not pleased with most of them, and their bodies scattered in the wilderness. Holy smokes. So here's what you're starting to get the picture of. Paul is talking about things that are opposing the natural descent of what is easy or what is to walk with Christ. And so what I love about this verse is it's flat in the middle of basically Paul saying this. It is hard sometimes to be obedient. It is hard to be naturally disciplined. And he's not only using himself as an example, he's using the whole history of the nation of Israel. And he's saying, look, we're going to get to a difficult spot. Now, what I taught in that Bible tips, which I highly encourage you to, is to read the first few verses before and to read the verses right afterwards. So if we just jump up a couple verses, let's jump up 3 verses. So we're starting at 13. Let's just go to 10 and see if that gets us far. And do not grumble as some do, and were killed by the destroying angel. That didn't give us any context, did it? No, I don't get any of that. Let's just try 11 then. These things happened to them as an example and were written down as warnings for us. For whoever the culmination of the age has come, so you think you are standing firm, be careful that you do not fall. Okay, that's starting to give me a little bit more, but I still don't get it. So there seems to be something that he's telling us we need to avoid that we're not sure. I'm not sure exactly what he's telling us to avoid yet. Let's go up just a little bit further, because this is how you do this. You got to go back and figure out what is the context of this no temptation has overtaken. What temptation? What temptation are we talking about? Now, there's things that occurred as examples to keep us from setting our hearts on evil things. Whoa, that's verse 6. That wasn't too far away. Do not be idlers, as some of them were, as is written down. These people sat down and ate and drank and got up to indulge in revelry. We should not commit sexual immorality as they did, and in one day 23,000 of them died. What is that? We should not test Christ as some of them put test, and they were killed by snakes. And do not grumble as some of them did, and were killed by the destroying angels. Now, when I read all that, what helps me understand where the context is? Do you have any idea where the context of that is, Jed?
Oh, I looked it up.
Oh, you looked it up? Oh, this is fantastic. Where did you look it up?
So I'm on YouVersion right now.
Okay.
They have these little chat bubbles things that appear by verses. It's basically like if you are reading your Bible. Yeah, if you're reading your Bible, like physically, you might look at the bottom and there might be verses or like in between. It's that just kind of tell you a little bit of context or links to what what's going on in this specifically.
So can I give some guesses on what I think's going on?
Yeah, hit it.
So the 23,000, I believe, was when they fought a war that they weren't supposed to fight and they weren't right. Is that right? Golly, I believe that's in. Can't context that real quick. The snakes thing is when they made an idol and they got attacked by snakes and Moses had to make an idol and they had to come get saved from them. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. That's that one. And then the grumbling is, I believe, about the food they were receiving or the lack of the choices of food. But I could be wrong about that too.
I think...
am I right about any of that? I don't know if I am.
The snakes, yes.
The
snakes,
so this
is
is
what happened,
okay.
Yeah.
This is really good for people to hear this because I think they just assume that the answers just kind of flow.
Yeah.
And you have to do some research. So what are you finding?
So here's one thing that I would say with that is like, this is one of those times the header is actually super helpful.
It is.
Because what is it again? It's like
the Israel's history of Israel.
Yeah. So what happens, this is from Numbers 25.
Okay, Numbers 25 is the first one, the 23,000?
Yeah. And so it looks like what happens is they're worshiping Baal. The people start worshiping Baal.
So it's an idol. So that's why he uses the word idol there in verse 7. Okay.
Yeah, and it uses this phrase, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel.
Ooh.
Yeah. And so God tells Moses, take all the chiefs of the people and hang them in the sun, that the fierce anger of the Lord may turn away from Israel.
Wow. So the consequences of idol worship is a grave one.
Yes.
And that's in Numbers what?
Numbers 25.
Numbers 25. They want to go read that. Okay, what's the next one?
So basically, that wraps up, and this is where we get to 23,000.
Okay, that's where everybody does that. Yeah.
Yeah, he says there's like a plague on Israel that happens, and that's the number of the people who die. Those who died by the plague were 23,000.
Okay.
Let me pull up this next one here.
Because I love that you're doing this research. This is fun. I know the snake one is in the desert. I'm trying to remember exactly the context of that because I know.
Yeah. So this one's a few verses or a few chapters before that in Numbers 21.
Okay.
And what happens is it says the people become impatient.
Okay.
They speak against God and against Moses, saying, why did you bring us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? There's no food, no water.
Our life was better as slaves back in Egypt.
Yeah, and God sends fiery serpents among the people.
Terrifying.
And they bite people, and many people die.
Okay.
People come to Moses and say, hey, we suck. We sinned and shouldn't have done all that. Pray the Lord take the serpents away. And God tells Moses to make a fiery serpent, set it on a pole.
Yep.
And everyone who bites it sees it and lives.
Dang.
So that's what happened.
And then the last one is this destroying angel.
Let's see. Destroyed by the destroyer.
That is like a Marvel character in my mind. Like I have no context for this. This is the one that I read that and I was like, I am actually really curious to go and read and figure that out.
So I think it's simply the angel of death that
from
comes
Passover?
From the plagues, yeah.
Yes, that was going to be my guess. So that would be the one in the last plague, the angel of death that comes and kills all the firstborns that did not have the Passover lamb blood over the doorframe.
That's in Exodus 12, yeah.
Okay, so let's just say that those are the three things in verse 9 that it lays out. I should say in 8 and 9, don't commit, sexual immorality as they did. The context of this, I believe, if you go back, is Baal worship has a sexual side to it. It's prostitution. And so that's why that idol worship in Baal in Numbers 25, that makes more sense now that I think about that, is because the context here is like, it was almost like forced prostitution to provide worship to Baal. So then 25, so let's not do that anymore. So like I said, with Corinth has this idol worship naturally in it. And I know that it's kind of like the Vegas side of things. So read verse 11 is really curious. So it literally ends with, don't grumble and complain, or the angel of the destroyer will come, which is just Paul obviously using the history of Israel to drive home the point that God does not like when we grumble and complain about the gift that we've been given. And he's saying Christ is worthy of not being complained about. All right. So then it says this in verse 11, these things happened to them as examples and were written down as warnings for us, that whom the culmination of the age has come. So if you think you are standing firm, be careful that you do not fall. Oh my gosh. So this is starting to give us some real context here. This is saying that idol worship was the thing that he is talking about when he says temptation. No temptation has overcome you except what is common to mankind. Now, I don't know. Do you have any idols in your house necessarily?
I mean...
No, literal idols. Stop it. I'm going to go there. I'm going to pastor them in a second. I know what you're thinking, and they're thinking it too. I'm not talking about your TV, and I'm not talking about your phone.
So you're talking about little gold man that
you
Indiana
have Baal.
Jones.
You have an idol of Baal in your house. Okay, cool.
No.
Because I know a lot of us, that's what we go to context-wise, that we think of idols. But then obviously, like, there's more than that. And there's been 1,000 sermons and 1,000 things that have been taught and books that have been read. But I think we forget that the context of this is that this stuff pops up, and it's a temptation to put your faith in something that you can see and touch and that you have access to that may be a little bit easier. And honestly, the reason that this is tricky is because all those places and those ideas that Israel's the only one set apart that doesn't have idol worship. And they're in the midst of all these other countries that have this. And so Corinth, you can imagine it would be even more difficult if you're a little remnant of the Christian faith, a little remnant of the gospel, the good news, followers of Christ. You have all these people around you that are constantly moving and ebbing and have a different way of working through life. And so literally when it says this, there is no temptation that is overtaking you except what is common to mankind. He is literally doing the exact same thing that Jed and I just did. He's saying this, look, Israel since the beginning of time has struggled with the same thing. Your struggle is not new in Corinth. It's not new. It's been the same. It may not be the same idol. It may not be a Baal. It may not, but it's the same, right? Is that right? And so then for us, it's the same thing. We got to decide, what things are we elevating? I could see it. Marriage can be it. It can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing. Elevate that relationship to a place that God could take. I can see Tiger King, right? It just comes in, a show or entertainment or something just steps in, and it's the release at the end of the day. It's the thing that gets you up in the morning. It's the thing that you put your hope in to get you through the next day. I can see food. Food's the one for me sometimes. I can just tell, like, I just hang on that, like having something good to drink, having something good to eat is the thing that gets me through, kind of the stress of the day. And it really does become, and it's slow most of the time, but it's one of those things that I can tell that I cling to. And that makes more sense when I read that verse right here. As God is faithful, he will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. All right. But in verse 12, it says this. So if you think you are standing firm, be careful that you do not fall. The verse right before this is basically saying, like, when you think that you got this all figured out, be careful. Be careful. Now let's just break this verse down just for a second. God is faithful. That is one of the easiest things. Temptation is universal. Guess what? It's consistent. So is God. Those are the constructs. You can see that where Paul's literally saying from Israel's history to our current situation, we have always been tempted. God has never given up, never changed. He has been faithful. And then he says, he will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, he will also provide a way out so that you can endure it. Now, what do we say the endurance was? It was suffering patiently.
Suffer patiently, yeah.
Ooh. So putting that in context, just thinking this real quick. I know for me, I love knowing that God is going to be with me. If there is a concept in the Bible that is most congruent through Genesis all the way through the end of the Bible, it is God is with his people. God is with his people. God is with his people. And I can see Paul saying this here. God is with you. He is not going to give you more than you can bear, more than you can bear, more than you can bear. Now, full temptation here is this: idols versus God. And that's why I think this is such a cool context. And this is what I'm going to end with this one. And I think they can put this together. Basically, what God is saying, if you choose to go to idols in your own way, you will not make it out. But if you choose to go God's way and you trust in him and you pull into Christ, there is always a way out. There's always a way out. If you pull into Christ and you go his way and you push, you repent, and you turn to him as the number one, as the provider, there is always a way that you can patiently work through your suffering. Does not always negate it, does not always remove it, but it is like a storm that is a solid anchor. You have a place that does not move. It is a stone that is solid and trustworthy as a foundation on a house. And that's exactly what Paul is saying here. Yes, the temptations are difficult. Yes, Israel has shown that they've been as unfaithful as we sometimes are, but God has not changed. And if we choose to go to him, he is worthy of our trust. And no matter what comes against us, no matter how much we're tempted, no matter how much we may have to bear and we may patiently have to work through in suffering, we can do it if we choose to put him first. So though people may read this as a verse sometimes, if I just read this out of context without knowing all the things that we just looked up, we may read this as God's never going to give you more than you can handle. Right? That's like the famous like interpretation of this verse. I think that's really shallow. When we did like 10 minutes, I mean, that's like 10 minutes of, and like, no. God absolutely is going to give you more than you can handle unless you trust him. Unless you trust him. And if you put your faith in him and you do not treat him as a bonus or an add-on, and you put him first and prominent, I think you can absolutely endure through anything because he's trustworthy and faithful enough to do that. And I think that gives that verse even more meat. And there's so much more to that. I know that the spiritual gifts come out of this too, where it's not just like you're going to survive through this, but you're also going to be gifted and given opportunities to grow. I know that because of what's coming in chapter 12, that Paul's he's not just leading you out of the desert of this brokenness, but he's actually leading you to full life. He's like leading you to something of like, you have a way to move forward and be used by God and to grow. And so I know for me, this verse is like that's a great one to start with, because we read it in that and we're like, oh, it's so pretty tight. And then you read like the 4 verses around and you're like, dude, this is really complicated. There's some destroying angels and there's 23,000 people died. That was a really, really good one. Well, cool. And I hope you're doing your own research, and put some thoughts in the comments if there's some things maybe that you learned or some things you need clarity on. We'd love to do that. Do we want to do one more? What do we got? How much time do we got?
I think let's stop it there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, here's the cool thing. I would love to see another verse or something that you've seen popularized on there that we maybe do this with. And Jed will watch the comments, and we'll watch the comments, and maybe we'll break one down. This is such a good one to do. I think it was kind of a fun one to have you involved in. I think we'll try this again next time. I would love to do this with an Old Testament verse too, to try that. I know it's a little scarier to try to do that, but it's really, really cool. Well, I hope this has been informative and helpful, and I hope it's been something that's been intriguing to you. I hope it even made you open your Bible, maybe, right? I mean, everything that would be crazy if it did. Again, our goal is not here to provide confusion or to put statements out that I think are absolute. We are all learning. I give you permission to learn if you give me permission to learn. I hope that you're choosing to pursue Christ, pursue full life. We're on the journey together. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys later.